and welcome back to the very beautiful and very sunny wild. I'm loving it, it's beautiful, it's a glorious day. And today's review is all about the Fujifilm X-T5, this beautiful camera body here in silver. And I've had the pleasure of using this for the last 3 to 4 weeks. And I've been literally everywhere I can. I've been on a boat, I've been on the Isle of May, I've been at wildlife hides looking at badgers, I've done self-portrait stuff, I've done landscape stuff, I've literally done everything I can to try and give you this review right now, because as a keen photographer myself and a lover of Fujifilm, I like to test things thoroughly because that's what I want to know about when I'm buying something. So I've really tried to put my own mind into this and what I look for in a review or when I'm buying something. So I really hope it covers everything for you. And if it doesn't, please feel free to drop any questions or comments below and I will happily answer them. But anyway, let's get on with this review. Okay, so let's talk first impressions, and I have to say it's really great having the X-T5 in my hand, because when I first started in photography I started out with the X-T3 and I adored it. I fell in love with the style, the look, the vibe, all these toggles and dials, and I love that Fuji have kept this. I love that they've kept this classic look and it's very unique. You can go out and you can identify a Fujifilm X-T series a mile off because they just have this beautiful classic look to them, which I absolutely adore. It's beautiful. So yeah, that was my first impression. Okay, so this leads me on to my favorite part, which is image quality. And I have to say, I was blown away by the quality of images you get from the X-T5. Now, I remember getting some dandelions and taking pictures of them and then looking back on the camera and I was like, oh my word, they were amazing. And I'm not just talking about sharpness here, I'm talking about the recognizable and identifiable features when you zoom in, that clarity and refinement, that's what you want. So instead of it just being this block of image, when you zoom in, you get so much texture and detail while still zoomed, which is impressive. It's really, really good. And I was like, top marks X-T5 because that's great. It is, it's really good. And I've got loads of examples of this to show you what I mean. And I found that with all the lenses I've tested it with, the 150 to 600 millimeter, the 33 millimeter, the 23 millimeter, and the 50 to 140 millimeter, all of these, the images were beautiful, like beautiful. And I was like, really, really good. And we've got good tones, good saturations, good contrast, just all these things that make up a beautiful picture. I think Fuji has always done such a great job with this, and the X-T5 is no different. It's fantastic. So I always show you all my examples of when you zoom in. I'm probably going to do this through Lightroom just to really show you the originals and after so you can grasp what I'm talking about. And even in low light, because there were plenty of times I had to shoot in low light, but I don't know if it's the sensor or something. When you draw it into Lightroom and then you have to use a bit of denoise maybe because the ISO is a bit higher, but you still have the information behind it. You still have the clarity and sharpness of an image, which I haven't normally found. Like when I used to do that with my X-T3 and draw it through, I was worried I'd lose some of that quality of the image, but actually I found this quality is still there on the X-T5, which is brilliant. It's really, really good. So yeah, I was blown away in bright light, low light, whatever light. It did really, really well. Image quality was great and you can't knock it, and I think it's just, yeah, it's brilliant, especially for the value for money. It's brilliant. Yes. Okay, so that leads me on to the build quality and ease of use of the X-T5. And I have a little confession to make, which I have disclosed with Fujifilm UK, but I tripped over with the X-T5 in my hand and a different lens, so I actually scuffed it. I felt really bad. It was a complete accident, but I have to say it held up really well, and it just got scuffed a bit there, which I'll show you. But apart from that, it was on hard ground as well, so it's solid, it's sturdy, and you don't necessarily have to worry about it. That's what I loved about the X series. It is like robust. And with that as well, it's weather resistant. That's what you want from your camera body, to know that it's safe and sealed in specific conditions like rain or dusty conditions. So that's always good as well. So that's top two things I really like about it. And it is finished with this lovely silver coating, as you can see. But I have found that this scuffs a bit easier than my X-T3 did. So I don't know if they've changed the coating they've used. I don't know, but it just scuffs a little bit around the edges a bit more. But at the same time, I fell over with it, so it's doing all right. For me, I think the main thing about the build and easy use is these wonderful dials. It's very unique to Fuji, and what I love is if you're a tactile person in your photography, or you want to be more of a physical photographer, and you get that enjoyment from adjusting everything and just feel like you're actually doing the work, not the camera. It gives you that sense of achievement, because you can adjust everything manually very easily. And I think if you are a manual shooter, it's a fantastic camera to work with, because everything is there as it would be if this was an analog or something like that, which I love. I've always loved that about the XT range. And along with all the customizable buttons and features, the Q button, the function button, all these things, you can customize the camera completely to suit your photography, your style and your mind, which I always love, which is really, really good. So definitely utilize those, which I have done this time, and it's been fantastic. And in terms of the weight of the camera, I don't find it too heavy or too light. I think with a small lens, it's great. And with a big lens like the 150 to 600 millimeter, it did fantastic. It's a fly. And in terms of any additional parts of the camera body, you've got dual card slots in here for your SD card. You've got your flash mount at the top, tripod mount at the bottom. And I don't think you can fit a battery grip on this camera, but I could be wrong, but I haven't seen anything for it. And you also don't have the expansion slot either, so I'm guessing you can't. So yeah, overall for ease of use and build, I think it's great. Bar the little bits of paintwork, like I said, and me falling over, I think it's held up really well, and it's a fantastic build and quality you get for your money. Okay, so the next point I'm going to talk about is your auto-focusing in terms of your animal eye tracking, or just animal tracking, human eye tracking, and you've got your specific animals like your birds, mammals, blah, blah, blah. And I tested the majority of these. I haven't done trains and planes, I'll be honest. I don't really take pictures of trains and planes, and I'm really sorry. There's nothing against that. I'm just not very good at it. But in terms of the animal eye, I was taking pictures of puffins, badgers, you name it, red squirrels, and I have to say the X-T5 did fantastic. I was really surprised by this. I used it mainly with the Fujifilm 150 to 600 millimeter. Loads of examples to show you. I did it at night with a flash on my camera, this one I mean, which I've never done before, and they came out great. I was so chuffed, in particular my pictures of badgers at night. You could see the badger's eyes in detail, you see their little nose, their whiskers, everything, and I was so chuffed by it. I really, really was, and I will show you these what I mean. So in terms of animal tracking, I think it's great. The caveat is I think it has to be great in specific conditions, because sometimes in low light or high contrast situations or multiple subjects, the camera did get confused. I don't know if that's the camera or the lens, two together, I don't know, but sometimes it would waver. It'd be like trying to figure out what to focus on. And I guess that makes sense. If it can't identify the object, or it's not clear or apparent to the camera, that does make sense why it wouldn't be able to focus on it. So to be fair to it, it's not human. So, but overall, I think about, I'll be fair, like 80% of the time, 75 to 80% of the time, it did great. There was just a few times where it missed focus, or it focused on the wrong thing, or like a rock or something else, or like water splashing instead of a bird, or things like that, where it didn't focus perfectly. But overall, it did do great. So yeah, just something to bear in mind. There is a little bit of a tweaking still, but overall, pretty happy with the autofocus, especially with the filming, but overall, all good. Okay, so the next point I want to talk about is filming. I tested the X-T5 with 4K filming uncropped, 6K filming uncropped, and full HD at 120p, which is 5 times slower of 24p. and that's cropped all in f-log, because I just seem to shoot f-log nowadays. It's just easier to keep it consistent, and it did great. It did really, really well, and I actually got a lot of filming, documentary style, wildlife photography. When I was away, I did loads, and I've got lots to show you. I can't tell if I'm in the light or not. I've got lots to show you and share with you, and you'll see what I mean. So if you're someone that's looking for like kind of a good base level of filming that you can still use with a very good photography camera, the X-T5 does both. It does really well, and if you just want to dabble in it, give it a go, try it out, and then see where you want to go with it. It does really, really well, and I've enjoyed it. And actually, when I started the X-T3, that's what I did. And in terms of autofocus, when I was filming both birds and mammals, yeah, it did great. It did really, really well. And I was actually really surprised with, because I feel like sometimes filming it was a little bit stronger with the autofocus than the photography, which is weird, and it did really great. I was quite chuffed actually with the tracking and the autofocus, which you can adjust as well to be more smooth, faster, slower, whatever you want. You've got the capability to adjust it to your own style or vibe that you want to go for, which is great again. So give it a look, see what you think. You can make your own mind up. So the next point I wanted to discuss was about fast photography, and I've just brought Eric into this because I thought he was being left out, and that upset me because I never leave Eric out. So I wanted to add this section in about fast photography because I think it's an important point to talk about, and it's not necessarily a problem if you're looking at buying the X-T5. It's just something to be aware of if you're doing a particular type of photography, which is fast-paced photography. So if you're doing like wildlife photography or puffins, and you need to capitalize on those high burst shots, that's the key. So with the X-T5, you can do high burst shots at 20 frames per second in your electronic shutter mode, and I think it crops the images at like 1.29. And this is fantastic because if you're doing wildlife photography and you've got a puffin flying in the air really fast, having that 20 frames a second, you can put it to burst, get the bird moving, and reduce that chances of blur if your shutter speed is as high as it can go. Just things like that. It's a really good opportunity to shoot with. That's my point. So when shooting in high burst mode on the X-T5, I just felt like it couldn't keep up with the writing speed of my SD card. And because of this, it slowed down, it was flickering, it was buffering, it was like kind of just loading. I'll show you what I mean by this. But what this meant was that I did miss some images, and I couldn't switch to filming either because it was taking time to load and I couldn't take more pictures. So I think if you're looking at high speed photography, wildlife photography, sports or anything like that, just bear this in mind. You might need to invest in a faster reading SD card, higher than 200 megabytes a second. I don't know what the threshold is. I don't know what the best card will be. I didn't get to test that because I don't have an SD card like that. Again, if you don't need to shoot at 20 frames a second, I haven't for years until now. You might not need to, so it's not a problem. Don't let that put you off either. It's just something to be aware of, that is all. I know some people are saying it's an issue with the sensor or whatever, but I didn't find an issue with the sensor because I think if there was an issue with the sensor, I wouldn't have got clear, crisp images. They wouldn't have saved in the first place. It would have just been like kind of compressed or rubbish, but they weren't. It was a matter of the SD card situation. So yeah, just something to bear in mind that I noticed when shooting fast burst shots. Okay, so that brings this very long review to a close, and I hope it's helpful. I hope it covers everything you need to know about the X-T5. But overall, I think it's a fantastic camera. I cannot deny my love for the X-T series because it's what I started out in photography. I started with the X-T3. I had that for like 3.5 years. I still have it. I only recently bought the X-H2S. That was like January time. So I've had the X-T3 for a long, long time, and it served me well, and I grew so much in my photography with it. This is the same for the X-T5. I think it's a camera that you can keep for a very long time. The quality's there, it's beautiful. And I think actually you can do filming and photography with this. If you just put your mind to it, get used to the equipment and learn how to use it, you'll be fine. You can really do a lot with it. I think it's so versatile and so wonderful. It's a brilliant bit of kit, it really is. There's only the few minor tweaks that I've mentioned, or things that I've mentioned with the fast paced photography or the fast photography, and also some of the paintwork chipping. Partly my fault. But overall, yeah, I think it's great. I don't know if some people find an issue not having a battery grip. I don't know. For me, it's fine because I've got little hands, but you might be able to get something that's like another company makes to go with it. There's a lot of them out there. But overall, I think, yeah, fantastic bit of kit, and it's perfect. And I think for the price you pay for Fuji equipment and what you get in return is brilliant. I think there's other brands that charge a lot more than Fuji does, but you don't really get that much more in the grand scheme of things. So keep an eye out in the future, because I will be doing a comparison video between the X-H2S and the X-T5 for wildlife photography in specifically with wildlife photography. So it's not a critique, it's just to say what's best suitable for different things. That's where I'm coming from with it. I'm a positive person, so we'll do this in a positive light. It's more about what's best suited for different scenarios. So keep an eye out for that, because that will be coming. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to drop them below. If I've missed anything off, because I probably have, I'll add it below. I was just looking at the screen and realised I didn't mention that once. But it just goes up and down really. There's not much I can say about that really. Yeah, on that note, I hope you've enjoyed this. Thank you very much for watching, and stay you, stay awesome, stay wild, stay free. And until next time, you incredible people, goodbye for now. Bye-bye. Come here, turn around. Turn around. You can say hi to your fans. Oh, stop wriggling. It's always on hold. As well, you can come. This is Eric. Eric says hi. What else do I want to say? Quick, 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 quick. Let's do that again, because I said beautiful twice. You happy now? Yeah? Manimals, whatever. Manimals? Animals or mammals. You're getting heavier and sinking more. You're melting. Said maybe you're gonna be the one that saves me, saves me. You had enough now? You've made my lap really warm. I don't know if you can name the birds in the area, but it sounds like one's going to me. It sounds so much like it.